Hey there, I wanted to do a kind of quick endorsement thing for the midterm elections. This will be fairly informal, and I'm not going to charge anybody for it because I know I've got a fair amount of patrons who'd be pretty angry to be paying for the message I have here today. I don't think it should be surprising to any of you that I would like you to vote for the Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. I am not a big fan of the Democrats. I am a big fan of divided government. I always have been. I like it when one party has one branch of government, another party has the other branch of government, and nothing gets done. That's my kind of thing. That's always been the case, but I think that's even more the case now. If you watch my channel, I think you have a pretty clear sense of what I think of Donald Trump. I'm not going to go into great detail here because I'd actually like to convince some of the people who are Trump supporters. You already know that I am not a big fan of his foreign policy. I think it's setting us on a road to ruin. You already know that I don't think he has a positive influence on race relations or unity in the country. Just not a really big fan of Donald Trump, but I want to talk about something I was talking about with a friend of mine who was, I don't know if he's really a Trump supporter, but I think he's sort of Trump curious, if you will. That actually kind of made some sense to me, but I also think is wrong. And what this guy was expressing to me that made it kind of sense was just, God, isn't it satisfying to watch Trump just smack these chumps around? Isn't it great that, Trump's going to D.C. and making all these jackasses look stupid, and, He's turned the whole thing into a joke, and it's fantastic because this is exactly what those Washington, D.C., motherfuckers deserve. I'm kind of sympathetic to that, actually. I mean, not the whole thing, but I get that, is what I'm trying to say. I understand that. I mean, from the financial crisis to the wars in Iraq, to the war in Libya, to the war in Syria, to just this sort of ceaseless mess that has been created, it feels great. It feels satisfying to sort of just throw a firecracker in the middle of it and sort of blow it up. And I think I get that, but that's not how I feel. I can't actually, or maybe no, that is how I feel, but that's not how I think. I can't bring myself to actually be a Trump supporter because I think the stakes are a lot higher than that. I probably talk about it too much, but I lived abroad for a while, and I've visited a lot of countries, and one thing that always sort of hits me is that they really care how the U.S. government goes, and they know how U.S. politics go. It's kind of sad to me in some ways. It's just it's weird to me as an American that you'd have to care about what's going on in another country, and I mean, it's good to know what's going on in other countries. That's a good thing. But to have to, the fine-grained detail that everyone from France to Turkey to South America, places I've been, everyone has a really fine-grained knowledge of U.S. politics that honestly defeats a lot of, is bigger than a lot of my friends here in the United States. And it's not really voluntary for them. They have to be invested in U.S. politics, and that's not just a U.S. hegemon, U.S. empire thing. That's just sort of the norm for most countries because you have to know what's going on with your neighbors. You have to know what's going on with the most powerful countries in the world. So they have to know about the U.S. They have to know about China to a degree, or if they have to know who's in charge in that region. In the United States, we have this incredible luxury where we just don't. Or rather, we just haven't. Not since 1989, anyway. I mean, back during the Cold War, most Americans knew who was in charge of the United States and who was in charge of the Soviet Union. Now, they don't even have to know that. There are no real big enemies. There's no threat. There's just nothing else that really matters because the United States is still just big enough and still just rich enough and still just powerful enough that whatever, we'll do what we'll do. The problem is that is coming to an end. That is not going to be the case 20, 30 years from now. We'll still be rich, we'll still be powerful, but we won't be immune. we won't be so completely immune from what happens everywhere as we are today. We won't have that luxury anymore. We won't have that luxury of ignorance. Which brings me back to this idea that, you know, it's great that Trump's teaching them a lesson or something like that. Because, like, we're already on the path to the point where we're going to have to deal with what happens in the rest of the world. And I think Trump is really sort of accelerating that. So I think we're squandering a little bit this last sort of happy honeymoon that we have as a country. Like, what happens in Washington, D.C. is important. And I would think that the financial crisis should have made that clear, and the disasters of U.S. foreign policy over the past 15 years should make that clear. What happens in Washington, D.C. is important, and decisions that we have been making over the past 2 years, over the past 16 years, will matter tremendously for that new era that's coming up, you know, in the 2030s or 2040s, where the United States is all of a sudden going to have to know what's happening in the world. It's going to have to be invested because either Mexico will be rich enough or China will be rich enough, or, you know, not necessarily to the point where, you know, they own us or they're more powerful than us or something, but it's going to be a more complicated world that we're going to have to know about, and that's already happening. So I think that this idea that, like, as I said, like, I can understand that, like, you know, it's great that Trump's in there and screwing with these guys because they're the worst. It's like, it's a tremendously self-indulgent approach, and it doesn't make real sense because we have so little time left before all of the world's problems become stuff that not stuff that we're sort of like, oh yeah, that's annoying, or we'll jump into it, or like we'll get into this if we can sell some weapons. Like, no, it's going to become vital. It's going to become, like, if not life or death stuff, it's going to be like continued economic value stuff. You know, this is the stuff we're going to have to know about. So wasting our time with Trump and the Republicans in charge of everything for another 2 years or another 6 years, I think would be pretty tragic. So yeah, I'm as much as it pains me, I am endorsing the Democrats in these upcoming midterm elections in the United States. So I don't feel good about it, and I'm not charging patrons for this. So there you are. There is my endorsement for the 2018 midterm elections in the United States. The stakes are high. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and please consider hitting that bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications for all my videos. Thanks.